drill instructor / drill sergeants of Reddit. What's the funniest thing you've seen a recruit do that you couldn't laugh at? Had one recruit paying attention to a bunch of geese rather than us. Made him get up and chase them all away. As they flew in the air, we made him follow them for several hundred feet to make sure they wouldn't come back. I was dying with laughter on the inside. Was never a D.I, but I can pass along a classic boot camp story. I was in the Navy, and in the Navy, your final inspection as a division is before the division officer, which is usually some junior officer puke that got assigned that job, but we didn't know any better. Anyway, before the inspection, one of our RDCs, that's what we called the DI in the nav, found a locker out of sorts and decided to beat us in our dress blues. That was not fun, let me tell you. Wool uniforms. If we lost our cover, we got beat more. It was bad. Anyway, the DO rolls in for inspection, walks up to the first dude in formation, and he pukes. However, this guy was a fucking genius. He puked down the t-shirt in his dress blues, saving the DO from getting puked on and us from getting beat even more. The division officer was so impressed at this dude's military bearing that he called the inspection right then and there. 5.0 sailors all around. We still got beat that night, but that guy was a hero. Standing in formation at Fort Knox about to head to the range, and everyone needs their gloves. One private comes out without them, and the DS screams, "Private, where the F are your gloves?" In this thick Tennessee accent he goes, "Well, damn drill sergeant, I must have done. Left them some bitches upstairs." The DS, from New Jersey, just dies laughing. At boot, it was taps out, and one of the RDCs show up and was doing a walkthrough. It was just before lights out. He was going through the head, and then a loud scream, "Oh my god, has jerking off, get your effing dick out of your hand, and out of my sight. Why the F is your dick staring at me, recruit?" Taps didn't happen as scheduled, and I still talk to this guy X years later. Also my bunkmate Mayo. I was going through Air Force basic training, and when on guard duty, if an unauthorized person wanted to be let into the bunks, you had to report it to your drill sergeant. Our sister flight's drill sergeant came up while I was on guard and requested entry, so I reported to my sergeant, and he had me ask the other a series of questions. This particular sergeant had a bushy mustache, so one question I had to ask was, in what year was Magnum Pie cancelled? He dropped out of view from the window laughing, came back up, and yelled it was never cancelled because I'm still here. It took everything I had not to crack up. So when you start basic, your body doesn't know how to handle no sugar, caffeine, rigorous exercise, and sleeping schedules, so it's in shock. With this shock, crapping becomes a problem for a few. Well, every DI after the first week is required to ask around if everyone has taken a crap, and from there he assigns one recruit to track who has crap and who has not. I crap you not, pun intended. We had one guy who would stand in the barracks at the end of the night rolling off names of people who hadn't crap yet. Finally, we have one guy who is still on there after 2 weeks, and the DI tells him to go to the doctor. The doctor gives him an get out of jail free card, essentially saying that at any point, he says the magical words "I got a crap" and he can escape any situation. Well, recruit can't shit, we'll call him, gets the smart idea that he's going to play his new trump card as long as possible. Every time that we are getting grilled, "I gotta take a crap" comes ringing in from the back of the formation. This probably happened 6 times until RDI caught on. Finally RDI devises a plan that when recruit can't crap goes into the bathroom, he's going to have a couple of us hold onto his legs and slide him into the stall, or Exorcist style. The time comes, and recruit can't crap excuses himself. We all follow RDI into the bathroom and slide him under there, like he's the spawn of Satan. This catches recruit can't crap by surprise. He doesn't know what the F is going on, as the DI is utterly berating him about lying and using this as an excuse to sit on the toilet. Then we hear a very audible "oh crap" from the stall. The DI scared the recruit so much he actually took a crap right then and there. The DI made every recruit look at it, and we played taps for it as we flushed it down the toilet. Then we hear a very audible "oh crap" from the stall. The DI scared the recruit so much he actually took a crap right then and there. The DI made every recruit look at it, and we played taps for it as we flushed it down the toilet. While in basic, we had a female that loved to smile. She was just a happy person in general. Well, my TI training instructor came in, and she caught the female trainee smiling. TI didn't like smiling. She walked up to the female trainee and yelled, "Wipe that smile off your face." Female trainee stopped smiling. The TI continued to yell, "No. Literally wipe the smile off your face with your hand." Trainee does so. "Now throw it on the ground." Trainee follows orders. "Now stomp on it and scream back quote die, smile die. As loud as you can." The female trainee stood there for a second before following through. Her tiny little voice cracks as she yelled die, smile die. And I will say it took everything I had not to bust out laughing. Had a guy in my Navy dividend. Not really a big deal smiler, just his facial physiognomy. He looked like he was grinning. About the second phase of training, he made an effort to frown to stop the attention. At some point, the RDC asked him what he was smiling about. He responded with something like "not smiling, petty officer. Just ugly." An RDC in another division asked a guy if he shaved that morning and the guy claimed he had. The RDC said, "Recruit, you are either a werewolf or you are lying. So which is it?" The guy responded, "I must be a werewolf, petty officer." "Why is that man howling at the moon, petty officer?" "Lying, sir." "Carry on." "Not me, but I had a great team SGT who had a floater, wonky eye, that he was blind in from an injury in Iraq. So one eye was dead on and worked fine, but he had this one Uncle Ruckus eye that just did its own thing. He was a very physically imposing man with that classic drill SGT bass-filled voice, and his crazy eye just added to it, and he knew it. He told a story about his time as a drill SGT when two privates had sat down on fire watch and were kinda just being real lackadaisical about their duties when he found them. So he starts just giving them the business classic Full Metal Jacket style, and finally he just ending his rant right before he's about to smoke them for who knows how long, when one of the offending privates just says, "Drill SGT, are you yelling at us or the water fountain?" It stopped him dead in his rage and he just walked away mid knife hand. That could have gone very badly. A risky move that paid off. Yep, those guys burned that only card. Any joke even remotely like that for the rest of his tour is getting utterly obliterated. We weren't allowed to talk during chow at the galley. You had to point at what you wanted another recruit to pass, and they had to silently pass it. One recruit wanted a napkin and pointed. The other recruit asked this. The CCS, Coast Guard DS, immediately came over, circling him like sharks, screaming at him. They made him put like 10 saltines in his mouth and chew until his mouth was full. Then ask the first recruit if he wanted a napkin again. He barely could get it out, spitting pieces of cracker everywhere. Then they screamed at the first recruit to answer him, but we were all silently cracking up. Sounded like this. "Phew, went a napkin. Pieces of saltines flying out. Answer him." Cracking up, almost crying. "No, thank you." It was the best. Oh crap, it's probably too late for this, but I just thought of one. I was a super light sleeper during basic training. One night I woke up for no reason. The sleeping bay was dark except for the light by the desk where the two soldiers on fire guard were supposed to be awake and alert. Both of them were leaning back in their chairs dead asleep. I started to throw my covers off to go wake them up. If a drill sergeant came through and caught the fire guard sleeping, we'd all pay. But then I heard a slow scraping sound to my right, off in the darkness. I froze and heard it again, closer. A few heartbeats later I almost screamed out loud as I saw the sharp and tense face of our Samoan drill sergeant in the darkness. His face was covered in full camo. He was low crawling underneath the line of bunk beds towards the fire guard. He had a bayonet in between his teeth. We locked eyes, and he silently raised one finger to his mouth, signaling for silence. I nodded and sat back to watch the show as the drill sergeant resumed his low crawl under and passed my bunk in the direction of the sleeping guards. I have a bunch of stories of funny crap I did to correct soldiers when I later became an NCO, but that image, like something straight out of an 80s war movie, will always stick with me. In Navy boot camp they call forced PT beatings. Everyone knows what a beating is. Navy doesn't have drill instructors, they call them RDCs, recruit division commanders. One day standing in ranks, the RDC is going around asking random trivia questions about a test we had to take to make sure we had been studying. He gets to a guy who was eccentric, to say the least. This is about a month and a half into boot camp. RDC asks the question, guys gets it wrong, so RDC yells, "No wrong, beat yourself." Literally everyone knew this meant start doing push-ups, so the expectation is he will start doing push-ups as the RDC moves to the next guy to ask a question. I was standing across from the guy, and he had a confused look on his face. He looked at his own hand for 5 seconds, then hauled off and slapped himself in the face. It made a loud crack sound. He got himself good. I cracked and chuckled, trying to keep composure at attention. The RDC looked at me, then realized why I laughed. Had to do with the slapping sound. He turned back to self-slapping guy and asked him if he slapped himself. Guy says, "You told me to beat myself." Cue the entire barracks cracking up. It was a single moment during boot camp where the curtain was raised, and a moment of unadulterated levity came over everyone. The RDC couldn't stop laughing, so the tough guy asshole persona melted away for a good 60 seconds, until he regained composure, and made us all do push-ups. The push-ups were an easy price to pay for that moment. Those moments are so genuine. It was times like that you felt human again. We had two 5 feet 1 inch stocky blonde guys named Johnson in our company. One cycled different platoons. No relation at all, but they looked really similar. One day during grass week, a couple J-hats made them face each other and go back and forth screaming, "You're not Johnson, I'm Johnson." "No, F you, you're not Johnson, I'm Johnson." You have absolutely no clue how hard it was to not break into a million pieces after about 5 minutes of that. I'm Dirty Dan. Boot Camp Edition. Johnson and Johnson. I work at basic training ranges, and we had a drill SGT yell at his solider while they were getting ready to go down a buddy live fire exercise. The solider froze and started crying. This 18-year-old kid was just in tears for getting yelled at. The DS yelled at him some more, and he finally gave up cause this kid wouldn't stop crying. So he made him scoop tears off his face and put them in his pockets till he filled his pockets up with tears. He did this for like an hour. It was hilarious. Clarify this for me. Are you telling me this young man cried for an hour straight? No, he cried for 5 minutes, but he had to keep wiping imaginary tears for a good hour. In my basic training class I was a squad leader, which is essentially just a person who does extra chores. Anyways, for reasons unknown, myself and the other squad leaders were doing push-ups in the drill sergeant's office. Now when you do these push-ups you eventually reach muscle failure, so you just sorta hang out there in the front leaning rest and try to bust out another push-up every few seconds or so. We're all in there dying, and the drill sergeant says to one of my buddies, "Private Hudson, tell me what's the difference between basic training and being in prison without missing a beat?" "Private Hudson," says drill sergeant, "in prison they get to watch TV." The drill sergeant cracked a little bit of a smile and then told us to get up and get out of there. Nothing like some extreme physical workout to get your brain firing. During Air Force BMT my flight was practicing marching one afternoon. As our flight was still fairly new, our marching was pretty terrible. One of the assistant T's reamed us all out and then proceeded to awkwardly mock us by marching and walking like Jar Jar Binks while giving a spot on impression. I'll never forget it. He just wanted an excuse to do the impression. Not a drill sergeant, but when I was in basic I saw 3 drill sergeants surrounding a private who was laying down, and they were all screaming, "Go the F to sleep right now, private. You take a goddamn nap this very second, you poor tired soul." Not exact words, but you get the gist of it. I still wonder how he got himself into that predicament. Caught sleeping. Can guarantee. Better than chanting "stay awake, stay alive" for a couple hours. Not a DI, but I enjoyed watching this happen. On hikes my Ds loved having conversations using the recruits as messengers. The DI at the end of the formation would send a recruit to the front to give the DI up there a message, and back they would either have stupid conversations or talk trash using the recruit. This was something my wrestling coaches did at wrestling camp to make us run more. Eventually they ditched the facade and just made the person in back sprint to the front every time a whistle blew. During FTX, the DS told me to get a trash bag, then go around and collect as many pine cones as I could. For like 3 hours. Had a bunch of trash bags. He then took a little walk around, contemplated for a bit, then said that he was mistaken, and it looks better with pine cones. He ordered me to redistribute all the pine cones. One guy had a leaf on his ruck after an FTX and got the company smoke for stealing private property from federal lands. Everyone was laughing a bit, even the DS. Ah yes, had that happen with telephone poles. Drill sergeant couldn't decide where he wanted them placed, so we kept moving them for an hour until he finally settled on their original position. Fun times. We had this kid who kept pissing himself. One day, after the range, he informs RDI that he had crap himself right after showers. Squad base starts to hold back laughter. DI. It's not funny. Awkward silence. DI. Okay, it's a little funny, but we aren't laughing. Man never cracked a smile during the whole thing. What I want to know is, why did the dude keep pissing himself? Holding it too long? A bit soft in the noggin? I doubt that information was ever given. I just thought I'd be a curious cretin and ask. He probably heard that it would get him kicked out and didn't want to be there no more. I remember hearing that when in boot camp. Wanna leave? Crap yo pants. Buddy of mine told a story when he was at basic. One guy had said yes ma'am to the female DS earlier in the day, so when they were all lined up, she was going down the line, asking each person if they called her ma'am earlier. The guy who did was fourth in line, heard the 3 previous guys say, no, drill sergeant, and then said in all seriousness, no ma'am. I overheard a yes, petty officer. Yes, petty officer. Yes, petty officer. Ooh okie dokie. Petty officer had to make a quick about face and flee before he busted up laughing. It was fantastic. When I was in boot camp, our drill instructor had a recruit sit in front of his own reflection, stainless steel panel, and continually asked himself if he really wanted to be here for 3 effing hours. All while screaming at him to mean it, and I don't believe you. I don't know how they didn't crack up. Was hilarious. One of my green belts had a recruit stand in the head in front of the mirror and point to his reflection and say, I'm not crazy, then point to himself and say, you're crazy. It went on for 45 minutes or so, until our senior came in and put a stop to it. Yusuf. TI. Are you finished yet? Trainee done. No, sir. I'm done. TI. Walks away to avoid laughing. On the topic of names, there are lots of things that are unfortunate to be called when your rank is seaman, due to how it sounds out loud. I'm glad no one ever connected my last name to it. We had some poor souls, such as Seaman Swallows. Poor girl. Also had a guy with the last name Tits, and he was going for the rate of IC, so his name was IC. Tits. Then he reached rank 2, and was IC 2 Tits. There was a dumbass in my basic that, after firing, he had his rifle up on his shoulder pointing the wrong way, towards the DS, clearing it, with the mag still in. The DS, 6'8" bodybuilder, slammed the effer into the sandbag screaming at him, and then the recruit had to lay prone in the dirt with holding a stick for a rifle, periodically saying bang for the next 3 or 4 hours. Somehow he still graduated with us. A story from my perspective as a recruit in Navy boot camp. We had an inspection the following day, so our chief was going around inspecting inside everyone's rack to make sure it was squared away. Eventually he made it over to my section. He was checking the rack, bunk bed that opens up, beside me, and had it propped open, so I couldn't see his face and kind of forgot he was there. He's searching through this guy's stuff and sees his small gloves. And he asks, you know what they say about small gloves? Now keep in my mind, I don't think any of my RDCs heard me talk until this point, and I said without any hesitation, I know that's not true. I wear a size 12 boot, but I can tell you right now I don't have a size 12 cock. And my chief slammed the rack shut and looked at me. What the F? He then stormed off into the fishbowl, and all you could hear was him trying to hold back his laughter in the office with the 2 petty officers. What's that disgusting crap all over your glasses, maggot? I believe it's your saliva. Drill sergeant, sir. Close SIs and waits for death. Oh, he dead. Drill sergeant, sir, he very dead. Had 2 guys laugh when RDC walked in, so he had them stand almost noses touching each other. One would yell, want to hear a joke, and the other would yell, ha ha ha, repeatedly for hours. It was hilarious at first, but once their voices started to crackle it got old pretty quick. Damn, that is pretty funny. On day 2 of basic training at Lackland AFB, my flight was returning with our newly issued gear, after having our heads shaved, and other hurry up and wait task. RTI told us to go upstairs and stand at attention by our beds. We ran up there tired after attempting to march what felt like 2 miles each way in the August Texas heat. We are all standing there waiting for whatever is going to happen next. After about 5 minutes, Donnie Barnes says that Sergeant Gates is an asshole, am I right? And you would not believe what happened. As soon as Barnes said Gates, the locker directly behind Barnes pops open with a creak. Barnes is frozen solid. Out of the locker pops one leg after another in the 3 taps as Sergeant Gates walks out of the locker and puts his mouth directly next to Barnes' ear and shouts in his gravelly voice, on your fires. We did so many push-ups. Drill instructor made a recruit stand in front of a tree pointing, saying, I'm not funny, you are, when he was caught laughing. The DI did actually laugh at that one. I feel like I'd be laughing even if I was the one talking to the tree. Early in boot in MCRDSD we were post-shower and at attention for the hygiene inspection, wearing nothing but skivvies and t-shirts. The DI is walking the line checking fingernails and whatnot when one private's hard-on flops out of his skivvies right as the DI passes him. The DI stops, looks the private in the eye and says, Private, I don't even like you, much less like you that way. Now put that goddamn thing away before it goes off. The private in question turned purple with embarrassment and tries to stuff his boner back in his skivvies, but is getting flustered as the DI starts yelling at him for being an incompetent private, and that if he didn't get it stowed in 3 seconds the private would be taking a 10-minute cold shower. Things like, do I have to hose you down like an excited chihuahua? Should I call the vet? Good God, private, is that how you greet your mother at night? Stow your gear, goddammit. Every other private in line was trying not to laugh, and the SDI had retreated to his office, where we could hear him howling with laughter. The private finally gets his junk stowed, and the DI resumes inspection, and you could see he was trying his damnedest not to bust out laughing. No one got much sleep that night. There were too many gigglers in their bunks and too many quiet one-liners. Edit. Shold used recruit, not private. Memory is a hard thing to use, right? Also, damn, this blew up. Glad y'all enjoyed it. We had a TI and TI in training with us as we were marching to a class. Some people were out of step, so the TI started screaming, don't you know your right from your left? Did the antenna fall off your house when you were a kid? Didn't your mommy and daddy let you watch 3, 2, 1 Contact? The T in training lost it. So did I. Not a DS, but went to Army Basic. I was in the chow line not too, but looking at the back of the guy's head in front of me, all of a sudden I can feel one of my drill sergeants breathing on me over the separation wall, and he yells, Shia LaBeouf, who is your daddy? To which I responded, you are drill sergeant. My other DS sprints over and says, oh yeah, what does that make me then? And all I thought to say was, my mommy drill sergeant. Every DS in the chow hall was dying, and I got the dog crap smoked out of me outside. Edit. I have plenty more stories either equally as funny or possibly even funnier. When I was in 8 to be a medic at Forts and we had to tote a line for bed check, stand on a yellow line by your bunk in PTs/shower shoes holding your ID card with your tags hanging out. We used to F with each other hard in our bay, and right before to line one of my buddies hid one of my shower shoes. So I'm in a rush and thinking fuck, okay, I'll just wear the one. So I'm standing at half attention in one flip-flop, and my bare foot is just kind of tucked away behind me. Our Carter for check comes up and just looks directly down at my feet, crosses his arms, and says, Shillabuth, what in some F are you doing? All I could get out to say was, Sergeant, I could not find my other shower shoe for bed check and I think he'd been saving this one, because he started to smirk and just yelled, God damn it, Shia LaBeouf, you are more right up than a chocolate dick in a gay bar, triggering giggles and snickers all throughout the bay. Thankfully our school Carter were a lot more chill than drill sergeants. Story from my wife, while she was in BCT. They are eating chow one day early on, maybe first or second day out of reception, and they hear a drill instructor yelling, why the F are you eating salad with a spoon? Apparently, in reception they had been told not to bother with forks, since they had 5 minutes to eat their meals. Dude wanted a salad. He decided, F it, I'm eating salad with a spoon. Hilarity ensued. Drill instructors let everyone know that not using forks is a dumb effing rule, and whoever told them that is effing stupid. It's an unwritten rule that early on you're supposed to stick to the normal foods and not venture off from the basics. We had one guy on the first week grab a cheesecake for lunch. Next thing I know, all 4 DIs have their own cheese cake and sit down next to him. They're all asking him how his day is going, if he's having fun, any girls in his life, etc. Totally normal exchange, which caught us all off guard. Finally they all finish, and as our DI is getting up he says, "Recruit, that won't be the last time I see that cheese cake." It wasn't the last time. The recruit threw it up later after the DI made him run x3 more than us. When getting to the depot you get rid of all personal items aside from your wallet, phone book, glasses, and religious items. It was second phase and we were drilling on the parade deck. We finish and are marching back to the house when our DI catches someone smiling. He says, "Oh good, something's funny, empty out your pockets." Recruit empties his pocket contents, a pen, knowledge card, and lo and behold he has a dollar bill. Our DI was dumbfounded and asked, "Why the F do you have money? You going to eat at a bar after this?" The recruit responded with, "I heard we get to use the vending machine, if we do well." Ha 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 ha. I'll never forget this one. Whenever a recruit would bust ass, we would make them turn on the vacuum cleaner, which meant we would yell, "Who the F just crap themselves?" This recruit is attempting to attack our olfactory sense. Platoon, turn on the vacuum, which would be followed by, "Turn on the vacuum, aye sir," and then all the recruits would suck in through their mouth as hard as they could. However, one time, we had a recruit who immediately answered, when we asked to crap themselves, that this recruit crap himself sir. Turns out recruit Jones crap himself during a late night drill session in 3rd phase. By then recruits are disciplined and almost always put the mission first, even if that mission is just executing left face, march, without asking to go to the head. Poor kid sat in his own crap for almost 2 hours. Not a DI. When I went through basic they gave everyone a flashlight with a lime green yellow thing on the bright end that you had to have with you in the morning for PT. Well, one individual forgot his when we all lined up in the morning and didn't say anything till we walked over to the PT pad. The TI began to berate him and tell him that he is a dumbass and run back to the bunks to retrieve the flashlight. Before he leaves the TI yells, "If anyone stops you just tell them you are a dumbass." Well, a TI was across the street and saw him running back to the bunks and saw the trainee all by himself, so he starts laying into him. We could all hear him on the PT pad until the trainee got a chance to respond with, "Sir, trainee so and so reports as ordered. I'm a dumbass." The TI walked away and didn't say anything. Edit. Since this blew up I have another story about this exact airman. Near the end of basic training, depending on your TI, you might get what is called an amnesty hour. It's everyone who has been in basic with you and your TI basically talking to you like a normal person again. Well, our TI opened the floor for questions and the first kid to raise his hand was the kid who forgot his Lackland laser. During all of basic, when I was there, a rumor was going around that a TI had posed for Playboy. Now it was a rumor but no one could go on a computer to Google it cause it's BMT. The airman stood up and asked straight face, "Sir, is it true a TI posed for Playboy?" Our TI laughed and confirmed the rumor, and again, "Sir, did you meet this GI?" Our TI responds with, "No, but if I did I would be tapping that without missing a beat." This short skinny kid from Tennessee says, "Thank you for not hitting it so that the rest of us don't fall in it." I cried laughing. My dad, who was an RDC, shrugs and says, "Oh, I laughed. Your hat is called your cover." It's the first day. I wanted some recruits from the back to the front to carry stuff. "Get up here with your covers." They went and grabbed their sheets. I have two. We had a recruit night who just couldn't do anything right. He couldn't even put on cami paint. So we were out in the field and RDIs had him completely black his face with it. I'm talking his ears, inside his nose, even his lips. Then they made him walk around with another recruit, whose name was also Night, and happened to be black, and point at him while saying, "Recruit Night is as black as night." I saw quite a few other DIs chuckle at that. Then on our last day before graduation, our J-Hat came in and told us we were our Kill Hat's first actual platoon as a D, and he was going to wake us up on the morning of graduation. So he hatched the plan, and that morning, when the Kill Hat came out and screamed "Get online," we all ran to the end of our tracks, but half of the squad bay was wearing togas and the other half was butt-ass naked. He basically did a double take and busted out laughing. And then we all did push-ups for about 10. A pair of battle buddies were late to formation. Everyone was lined up waiting for them to get dressed, and they ran down about 3 seconds apart from each other, which was a big mistake. First one runs out. Drill screams, freeze mother effer. Aren't you supposed to have someone with you? And without skipping a beat the private replied, the force is always with me, drill sergeant. After thinking about it for a secretary, he told the private to shut up and fall in line. His buddy, meanwhile, had made his way outside and was trying, poorly, to sneak into line. Drill sergeant sees the private sneaking. Well, now hold on a reffing second. Who's this effing big shot over here walking around like he owns the place? You the new top. You think you're special? Private, no, drill sergeant, I'm the force. Everyone, including the lead drill, lost their effing crap for 2 seconds. Had a soldier one time stop doing mountain climbers while we were being smoked as a platoon. DS came up and squatted down, yelling in his face why he stopped. Recruit yelled back, this soldier has made it to the top of the mountain, drill sergeant. Dude just walked away trying not to break with laughter. He's lucky that DS had a sense of humor. I could easily see DS turning around and saying something to the effect of, you have made it to the top of the mountain. When I say you've made it to the top of the mountain and I say you're at the bottom of the goddamn mountain, recruit proceeds to make him do mountain climbers until he vomits asterisk. Just got off the trail a month ago. The biggest standout for me was, while conducting an urinalysis, we have a set of things we tell the soldiers to do. Wash your hands without soap, open the cup, place it on the urinal. At that point I usually say situate yourself, and I think you can take the rest from here. This kid at that point tried to climb on top of the urinal to fill the cup still placed on top of it. I had to yell at him to stop and tell him to pick up the cup to urinate in it. I almost had to walk out because I was going to lose it. In probably 1000 UAs that I had to be there for, I've never had a kid climb the urinal before. Thought of some more. To add, one of the soldiers somehow got a forest ranger hat. Looks pretty close to a DS campaign hat. He then started raiding soldiers' rooms with soldiers in them while his buddy recorded them on his phone. This is AIT, so they have phones and semi-private 3-man rooms. We ended up finding the videos uploaded on Facebook and figured out who it was, took the hat and disciplined him. However, the videos were funny as hell and his impressions of some of us were pretty spot on. And now for a fun thing I used to do to mess with them. So I was at ESN, Advanced Individual Training, AIT for the army. One of the first, since they brought them back. In AIT they have a bit more freedom and they can have certain things in their rooms. One of the things they like getting, and usually hid in a locker, would be a Google Mini or an Echo Dot. When doing room inspections of soldiers that had a crap room, I'd randomly say things like, okay Google, set an alarm for 1 AM or Alexa play Katy Perry at 2 AM. I'd have super confused soldiers in the mornings at physical training wondering why they had random alarms going off all night. Edit. Added another story and a random fun thing I used to do. Not a drill instructor, but when I was going through basic, it was one trainee's birthday when we went to the gas chamber for experience of the crowd control gas. This trainee happened to be Jewish, so first thing in the morning, when we have the little huddle about what's going to happen that day, the T asks if there are any questions. Trainee Goldberg, not his real name, but this dude was built like Goldberg, raises his hand and says, sir, don't you think it's a little effed up to send a Jew to the gas chamber on his birthday? And everyone busted up laughing, including RT. But the story doesn't end there. We go to the dining facility for breakfast, and as he's going through the line, RTI yells out, trainee Goldberg, why don't you tell the other TIS what you told me this morning? With a straight face, trainee Goldberg says, oh, I was just telling RT how it's pretty effed up the Air Force is sending a Jew to the gas chamber on his birthday. All the T's at the long table just fell silent, almost scared, and RTI just busted up laughing so hard that all the trainees stopped. Trainee Goldberg, despite being 6 feet 2 inches and solid muscle, was perhaps the funniest guy in our flight. He owns a few gyms now in his home state. Awesome guy. When I got to basic I was so nervous I didn't know what to do. You wait in processing for like a day or two and then go to your drill sergeants. When I got off the bus I was immediately smoked. I was so excited / nervous that I just awkwardly started smiling while in the front leaning rest position. The drill sergeant got down in the push-up position with me and was going up and down and finally just cracked a huge smile, and I lost it. It was the only time I saw him smile, but was hilarious. Wasn't a drill sergeant, but was a lieutenant in a basic training company. Yeah, I know. During final inspection I had to go down the ranks with one of the drill sergeants and inspect the soldiers one by one while they stood at attention in their Class A uniforms. I had to inspect their appearance, ask some questions about their weapon or the general orders. Stuff like that, while they stood there at attention. While moving down the line I turned to face one soldier. There he was standing at attention, proud as can be. But his uniform had no brass buttons. My best guess is someone stole his buttons the night before. But there he was standing there with his perfect military bearing. I imagine he was hoping I wouldn't notice or something. It was everything I could do to keep my military bearing, because I wanted to bust out laughing so badly. I was afraid if I opened my mouth to ask a question I would start laughing, so I just looked at him all mean like, which is laughable itself, sighed, and shook my head slowly in disappointment, and moved on to the next soldier. I had a female DS that put the entire company at attention. She then proceeded to pull a baggie out of her pocket and told us she found semen on the shower wall in which she used a spoon to collect the evidence. She was threatening that she was going to have it tested for DNA so she could identify the nasty male. Of course nobody confessed. We also had a short Somali drill sergeant who had an accent. He did a health and welfare inspection of the men's barracks and found a life-size poster of a chick in a skimpy bikini, folded up in Private Berry's locker. When he unfolded said poster, it was taller than him and all you could see were his fingers and knuckles at the top of the poster, and then he started yelling. It sounded like this: "Wivet boy, this is Kanwaband, and not allowed in these barracks." It went on and on. The entire time, the chick on the poster is moving, and you couldn't see the DS at all. We all got smoked for laughing. Not a drill sergeant, but going through boot camp I heard some great ones. During the beginning of basic we were monitored while we ate, which included being told when to begin consuming, and when to stop. We had this chubby kid who was having a particularly rough time, and you could see he was already close to breaking. So we are told our chow time is up, and we all instantly get up from our seats and form a line next to wall at the end of our tables to clear our trays in a trash can at the end. Chubby kid does not join us, but instead chooses to sit and finish his meal. He is completely alone in the middle of the mess hall. A drill instructor comes up to him and immediately begins berating him. Chubby kid looks the drill instructor dead in the eyes while sitting and has a completely insane look behind them. In his hand, he has a butter knife clenched, what I can only describe as a threatening manner. Lol. Without missing a beat, the drill instructor yelled at him, "What are you going to do with that tubby? Spread me on your effing toast." When I was doing my basic military qualifications I had forgotten my running shoes for P.D. I only had my boots. While the rest of the unit was running laps around the facility, the master corporal took me outside and had me march to his instructions in the back parking lot. This was in February. The lot had just been plowed and there was a particularly large snow-plowed mountain in the very center of the lot, 15 feet high or so. He had me march over the snowbank countless times, back and forth, falling down every so often while he yelled. The others were back in a side at this point watching it happen, enjoying lunch. Never forgot my shoes again. Not in the US but in Asia. Was helping out with some admin at a course for reconnaissance troopers for their prisoner of war, POW, training. Essentially, while under capture you have to observe a few basics like not divulging your mission, or why you were at said location, how many people are in your unit, etc. Sergeant, playing the role as a captor, lines up all the trainees, proceeds to roughhouse and interrogate each one. Came to one and asked him, "What are you here for?" He said, "I'm here to pass the course, sir." Not in boot camp, but in a school setting in the military. In formation one morning, I heard a slap, and a guy killed a fly or a mosquito or something. The instructor started screaming that corpsmen do not kill unless defending themselves, their marines or patients. He had just killed a unarmed friendly, and will give it a proper burial. So he made us all dig a human-sized grave, while the sailor that killed the fly stood there watching with dead fly in hand. We gave it a funeral and everything, without honors, and had to fill in the hole. We kinda hated that guy for a while. Do you have a story about the funniest thing that you have seen a recruit do? Leave a comment below. Remember to like and subscribe. Toodles.